Hello and welcome to the first in the AwesomeCloud webinar series. Today we are going to talk about growing your cloud services business. Let me first introduce myself. My name is Kara Pluff and I am the Director of Marketing and Sales for AwesomeCloud. Today we're going to go through a quick overview of AwesomeCloud, who we are, the services we offer, and the general benefits you receive by working with us. Next, we'll quickly cover how our partners succeed. And finally, we'll talk about cloud solutions that you can implement to grow your business. These include desktop as a service, messaging and collaboration solutions, disaster recovery, and of course, business continuity. So let's jump right in and get started. And we'll start with our AwesomeCloud overview. Now, many of you know us already, but I figure we'll touch on some of the basics in case there are any new attendees here or people who aren't too familiar with us. So who is AwesomeCloud? We are 100% white label cloud solutions that's built on the focus of providing you your cloud on your terms. AwesomeCloud is backed by Applied Innovations. As many of you know, it started out as a company by Rise. And a couple of years ago, Applied Innovations acquired AwesomeCloud. Applied Innovations has been in the hosting business for over 15 years now, and our staff is comprised of Microsoft expert engineers. We were one of the first to launch a Hyper-V cloud, and we were the first to launch Windows 2012 cloud hosting. So we have a lot of experience in this industry and working with Microsoft. Today, AwesomeCloud has over 100 partners, which are primarily hosted at NAP of the Americas. We're going to talk a little bit about that facility specifically, but it is one of the top 5 data center facilities in the world, so it's quite an impressive feat. Next, all of our technology is stacked on top of Microsoft, so as I mentioned before, we're built on top of Hyper-V virtualization. And of course, we offer our partners 24/7 by 365 support. The services we offer today are infrastructure as a service, otherwise known as IaaS, networking solutions, of course, which include firewalls and VPNing, and finally, simplified software licensing. So let's start with the benefits of infrastructure as a service. First, you have the obvious 3 benefits of IaaS over on-premise infrastructure, and that, of course, is cost control, so you're not putting in a huge investment in hardware at your own facility. Scalability, because you can leverage our economies of scale and network/infrastructure. And flexibility, of course. You can change anything at any time, and you're not stuck into purchasing things that you may need a year in advance. You can buy what you need today for the clients you need today. Next, of course, there are 4 other major benefits of using infrastructure as a service. First and foremost is security. You don't have to employ a ton of your own security and security administrators. Full redundancy. We're in a facility that is N+2. High availability and performance because we're built out on clusters. And of course, those clusters employ automatic failover in case of hardware issues. So all in all, you receive a lot of benefits of having infrastructure as a service providers versus on-premise solutions that you have to build out. Next, of course, are the networking solutions. And some of the benefits of networking solutions include firewalls, which protect against, of course, malicious behavior. We've seen this happen a lot recently in the news, and of course, we want to be as secure as possible. And of course, with these firewalls that are dedicated to you, they're completely customizable. So you can really provide enterprise-grade security even for your small and medium business clients. Next, of course, are VPNs, which allow secure access from anywhere, and we can do this on a site-to-site or user-based connection. So you have that flexibility in the type of VPN that you actually implement. So let's talk a little bit about benefits of software licensing. We offer a few different levels of software licensing, first and foremost, of course, being Microsoft. We're a huge Microsoft partner. And that type of licensing includes things like Exchange, SharePoint, Lync, Dynamics, or Office. We'll talk about those a little bit more in depth with the solutions that you can offer later in the webinar. And next we have Vision Solutions, which provides the business continuity and disaster recovery licensing. The huge benefit here is that you don't have to waste your time on license procurement or get stuck into long-term licensing contracts. You can pay as you go monthly. Now let's take a look at our infrastructure. So like we briefly talked about, we're hosted at Verizon Terramark's NAP of the Americas, which is just a phenomenal facility. If any of you are in the Miami area or are planning to take a trip down to beautiful sunny South Florida, I'll just mention it's typically 85 degrees and bright sunshine, so we tend to get a lot of visitors. We will be happy to take you on the tour of this data center facility, and we'll even take you to lunch. But let's talk a little bit about the features of it. First and foremost, it's SSAE 16 certified, so it is compliant. It is a Tier 4 facility with N+2 redundancy. They employ 24/7, 365 armed security, and all of that armed security was previously either police enforcement or military personnel, so they're highly trained and experienced security. Next, of course, it's safeguarded against natural disasters. Being in Miami, we get the question very often about hurricanes. So there's a few ways to approach this question, but the first and largest way I would say is that with hurricanes, you have the opportunity to be prepared, and this facility is no question prepared. It is built purposely to be a data center, so they built it to withstand Category 5 hurricanes with approximately 19 million pounds of concrete roof ballast. Not only that, they have 7-inch thick steel reinforced concrete exterior panels. So in this building, they have the first floor, which does not contain any infrastructure and is the only floor that actually has windows. 32 feet above sea level is where infrastructure starts, and you will not find a single window on that level of the building or higher. So the city of Miami had actually said to them that they didn't like the fact that the building wasn't pretty enough without windows, so they had to actually construct fake windows on the outside of these 7-inch thick steel reinforced panels. So today, if you drive past the data center facility, it will look like it has windows, but there are actually none beyond the first floor. They also have consistently running generators. They've got 16 throughout the building, and they are located on 2 separate power grids because it takes up 2 full city blocks on different power grids. So they're very highly protected against hurricanes. They're outside the FEMA 500-year designated flood zone, and they're really well prepared to handle any type of disaster, truthfully. The second statement, of course, is that no matter where you go, there's going to be some type of natural disaster. As we see earthquakes in California, we see tornadoes in the Midwest, snowstorms in the north. So anywhere you go, you're going to have some type of natural disaster. What's important is how you're protected against it, and this facility does that very, very well. Of course, because of all these features, that's what allows us to provide a 100% network uptime service level agreement. At this point, let's talk a little bit about our secure, reliable network. So this is how we are structured in terms of our network inside of NAP of the Americas. If you take a look at this chart, the first section is going to start off with our edge routing and edge security. So you'll see the Juniper devices there. Matter of fact, throughout this entire section, you'll see that we're secured completely with Juniper, Cisco, and Fortinet solutions. So within this edge routing and security is where you're going to find the edge switch, which performs high availability routing services. In the next section, that reddish orange there's the network IPS, which is intrusion prevention system, and stateful firewall, which provides data loss prevention, known as DLP, and anti-DDoS, which are distributed denial of service attacks. In the next blue section there, you're going to find our highly available enterprise-grade core routing and switching, all provided by Juniper. And that green section where our access routing, switching, and security is where you'll see stateless firewalling. Next, of course, is that red-orange again, where is essentially your firewalling and VPN. So That's where your dedicated virtual firewalls would come into play, or your client VPNs would come into play. And of course, that service can include IPS, UTM, DLP, anti-DDoS, and VPN tunneling, which then, of course, connects to your own VLAN and IP subnet and your client virtual machines. Here's a look at some of our technology partners. We've talked about many of these. Again, we are a big Microsoft partner for many reasons. We also use Dell for all of our hardware needs. We don't employ college interns to build out their own machines for fun. We use reliable, trusted sources that we can count on for support. We're also a member of the Microsoft BizSpark community, so if that's a program you haven't heard of, we highly suggest you check it out. They offer some very nice incentives for new and smaller businesses. And of course, Intel, and throughout our hardware, we have Cisco, Fortinet, and Juniper as our providers and partners. So now that you know a little bit about AwesomeCloud, let's talk about how our partners succeed. Like I said, we really focus on providing you your cloud on your terms, but we also really want to focus on a win-win scenario. In order to do that, we've created an environment where our partners don't have any startup fees. We think it's important that you can partner with us and hit the ground running without having to invest initially. Now, we also have no spending thresholds, so we'll provide you discounts and the ability to have good margins with your clientele right off the bat. If you want to do contracts that are annual, we do provide annual incentives. Of course, everything is a 100% pure white-labeled cloud service. We also offer sales account manager support. So many of you have talked to some of our sales account managers, but you all should know that when you're dealing with clients or customers, we're more than happy to assist you in answering your clients' questions and needs, helping you architect solutions and really get to the solution that's going to provide you the best return on your investment. And finally, we always look for feedback from our partners. So we're going to be establishing programs like partner advisory committees, where we get together on a continued basis and ask you the questions like what we can do in order to help make your business more successful. Today we do have a section for partner resources, and you will find all of that on our website, but here's a quick overview of what's offered. We have a sales guide as well as marketing materials that you can rebrand as your own. There is an online portal where today you can build out quotes for your customers, and very soon there will be the opportunity to manage your virtual machines, so you can stop, start, and reboot them. You can also see what types of specifications are on them and resources. Next, of course, we have case studies and frequently asked questions that our partners come with. What our partners say today, and we're very thankful to have a few partners that have participated in case studies and testimonials with us. You'll see this first testimonial from Bill G., one of our managed service providers in Montana, who basically says that AwesomeCloud has been awesome for us. And you know, we love the name, we love the word, and we love being awesome. So he says essentially they use us for all of their internal server needs as well as for their customers and clients. The transactions have been a net benefit for them because of our responsiveness, uptime, and speed. Hearing from another one of our partners, Eric at BCG Systems, essentially he likes the ease and the fact that things are pretty painless. We try to give you exactly what you need from the get-go so that you're off and running very quickly and able to provide solutions to your clients. Those solutions typically include things like desktop as a service, hosted messaging and collaboration, disaster recovery, and business continuity. We're going to talk about each of these pieces individually as to how you can implement them and what types of markets they have to offer you as well as profit potential. But let's first take a look at how cloud services impact different verticals. Many of you tend to focus on specific verticals, so here we thought we'd talk a little bit about what cloud services can provide your clients. So for example, let's start with the health industry. I know personally I've gone to many of my doctors recently. I really don't have all that many doctors, but 2 of my doctors have already implemented electronic policies and procedures and charts. So my nurses walk around with tablets, and it's really nice because they can review my history immediately and have the most up-to-date information without flipping through pages and pages of a chart, or maybe somebody forgot to note something, whatever it may be. It's making things much more up-to-date and accurate across the different employees of the organizations. You'll see the same thing in the education and public sector, but a really fun thing with cloud services is it's allowing teachers to have multi-teacher collaboration on school projects, or even students to have that type of collaboration on school projects. Next, of course, is legal and human resources, where you see a lot of cost savings and cost efficiency with things like HR system software updating offsite during the hiring process. Next, let's talk about retail. Retail, you'll see a lot of benefit in terms of managing inventory systems in multi-locations, real-time insight into what's occurring in the stores and so on, scalability, of course, and creating more operational efficiencies. With financial services, they tend to focus on real-time collaboration and on-site transaction closure. You can create customer portals and create a differentiation for your different clients and businesses. Manufacturing, of course, gets back to that real-time inventory, real important. So you're seeing a lot of contractors using tablet apps on site for things like supply chain management. Now let's talk about each of the solutions you can use to grow your business and get into them a little bit more thoroughly. We'll start with desktop as a service. With desktop as a service, your company is going to essentially provide the entire back-end infrastructure, security, backups, and management of your client's desktop environment. So really with desktop as a service, we're seeing now that it's no longer just about the desktop. It's about users and their devices and their ability to access things from anywhere. Here is a diagram of what a typical desktop as a service environment looks like. On the far left, you have your employee at the office. Instead of your employee just going into the office and logging into their desktop machine, which holds all their information, they're going to actually access their information on the cloud. So even though they're logging into a desktop, the information is stored in that centerpiece of the cloud where they have their business applications such as Microsoft Office or QuickBooks, etc. And the beauty of this is that on the far right-hand side, you're going to see that they can also access remotely. So when your employee is at home on their laptop and a customer emails them and says, I really need another copy of that quote. I don't know what happened to it, but I don't have access to it, and I want to get that signed off now. If your employee only has that quote stored on their desktop at the office, they can't send that to your customer. But if their desktop is in the cloud and you're using desktop as a service, your employee can access that quote from their phone, their laptop, or even their tablet. Now, there are 4 major components into setting up a desktop as a service environment, and those 4 components are shown here. First, of course, you have a firewall, which is dedicated to you or your client, with a VLAN, which is a virtual local area network. Next, you have a VPN, which ensures that they're logging in securely and you keep the data protected, which again we can do on a site-to-site or user-based model. Finally, you have the actual cloud server, which is going to host the business applications, and typically you will see a configuration like that below, somewhere around 2 gigs of memory, a single CPU, and maybe 40 gigs of a drive. Of course, this all depends upon what you run, which is the 4th component, your licensing. So things like Microsoft Office, Word, Excel, potentially QuickBooks or Dynamics, depending upon what your users are doing. Once you have the components and such, really provisioning it is in 4 simple steps. You're going to just choose your operating system and business applications. We're going to go ahead and obtain all the licensing for you. We will also set everything up in our highly secure infrastructure, And the fourth really easy step is your users get instant access from any device, anywhere, and anytime. Really, you're sitting back and having a cup of coffee. So, why is desktop as a service so important? Well, realistically, it's about meeting user demands. So today, approximately 40 to 60% of employees use personal devices for work to some degree. What you don't want to happen is have an employee who has some files on their desktop, other files on their personal laptop, and they don't have access to everything when they need it. You'll see that 65% of people are using their laptops for work purposes, 25% are using their mobile phones for work purposes, and 10% are using and storing information on their tablets for work purposes. So when they're storing all of that data on their personal devices, there becomes a security threat. So another major benefit of using desktop as a service is you're going to increase security. As you'll see, there are 5 to 10% chance of laptops being stolen over the course of 3 years. And in that time frame, only 5% are ever recovered. So all that information on those laptops is at risk. You'll see out of 329 surveyed U.S. enterprises that there was over 86,000 lost or stolen laptops that each equated to almost $50,000 in data loss. The total loss was $2.1 billion or $6.4 million per organization. That is a lot of money to a business. Now, if those benefits aren't enough, the major benefit that we really like that we see in desktop as a service is the fact that best-in-class companies show an approximate 35% increase in productivity, and that's through offering corporate email, accounting and finance solutions, and productivity suites along with their desktop as a service. But there's more, because why should we stop there? Today we're seeing a lot of bring your own device models being implemented in the workforce. Major reason for that is because 70% of companies tend to think that that's going to increase productivity, and the truth is it does. But aside from that, according to a 2013 study conducted by Cisco, companies are saving as much as $3,150 per employee by implementing a comprehensive bring your own device program. So just by allowing that to happen, companies are saving money and increasing productivity. So let's take a look at the market opportunities. The desktop hosting market shows an incredible growth rate, as you can see here on the chart. While the desktop virtualization market was $1.6 billion US in 2009, it's expected to grow to $5.6 billion by 2015. So that equates to a compound annual growth rate of over 84%. So now's really the time to get into offering desktop as a service solutions. So we took a quick look at the cost and typical retail value of desktop as a service and found that you're looking at 20 to 35% margins in providing desktop as a service to your clients. Next, let's talk about hosted messaging and collaboration. With hosted messaging and collaboration, this gives your clients tools to offer a range of services that go from email up to collaboration tools like team calendars or document sharing. As you'll see in the 3 icons above, this really boils down to offering Exchange, SharePoint, and Link as hosted solutions. So where are the market drivers for hosted solutions today? There are really 3 different target markets for this. First, of course, is your IT executive, and what they're going to care about most is the built-in protection of hosted messaging and collaboration. They understand that email is mission critical. They also see that it decreases the TCO for email and Exchange. And of course, corporate policy is often difficult to enforce, and it allows you to manage the keystone costs. So When you have collaboration tools in place, it streamlines where all of your processes and procedures are. And I'm sure all of us have experienced where when you ask 3 people the same question, you get a different answer. Well, when you have these collaboration tools, it allows you to reduce that and really manage the keystone costs. So that's where you're going to hit your IT executives. Next target market, of course, is your IT professional who really cares about operational efficiency. That's what their job's all about. That's what their performance is judged based on. So, of course, things that are going to pain them is that, hosting an exchange is infrastructure that's complex and expensive. Management tasks are tedious, they're not automated, and it requires employees to actually manage and take care of these things. Next, of course, you have end users. What do end users want? We want access anywhere, anytime. We need to be able to work from anywhere. Email is our primary tool. It's where we collaborate. And today, there's a lot of information overload, so we want one place to go and find what we need. So the major benefit of hosted messaging and collaboration we see is that best-in-class companies see about a 40% overall increase in productivity, which of course is huge. Any of your clients that you walk in and say that to are going to be ecstatic about getting 40% more out of their current staff. So let's talk first about hosted exchange, which of course enables employees to have access all the time to the emails they need to do their jobs, whether they're at the office, at home, or on the road. Your major reasons to implement a hosted exchange offering first are that hosted exchange is growing rapidly. The users for it are expected to increase by over 5% in 2014, which gives it an 18.4 projected adoption rate, which is, a lot of growth in the past 2 years, and you'll see there's a lot more growth to come. Plus, it's pretty easy to convince people when you see things like 94% cost savings. So down at the bottom of this page, you'll see across these different user implementations from 10 to 1,000 users, you're going to see somewhere between 56% and 94% cost savings by implementing hosted exchange as opposed to on-premise exchange. So let's take a look at some fun facts. Email today is the #1 business communication tool. I'm sure we pretty much all know that by now. Let's face it, we're not talking on the phone anymore. Text messaging is fantastic, but we don't see a lot of that in business. In business, we see email. We don't see a lot of person-to-person or face-to-face. Matter of fact, I tend to email the person in the office next to me more than I walk over and actually ask for something. So email is by far and away the #1 business communication tool today, and of course that makes it mission critical. On average, workers spend about 2 hours and 40 minutes a day on an email client. That's about the time it takes me to run 20 miles, so that's a lot of time. You'll also see, and this was something that I found a bit overwhelming, and then I realized, wow, it's probably really accurate in my world. The daily message volume average in 2012 was 110 emails a day per worker. That's back and forth. But in 2016, they're projected at 130 a day per worker. I would be surprised today with all of the places that we have to sign up for. I mean, every website I go to today asks for my email, asks for a password, or asks if I want to log in with Facebook, of course. And, so now I'm just inundated with emails from every website I've pretty much ever visited. But finally, most importantly, Exchange is expected to grow to a 68% market share in 2016. So aside from email being the #1 tool, Exchange specifically has the market essentially capitalized. So Exchange is the solution that you want to focus on. Now let's take a look at some of the issues your clients face with email today. First and foremost, of course, is cost and management. Average on-premise Exchange implementations cost a company $250,000. For small and medium businesses, that's a huge chunk of change. But on top of that, they have to have an Exchange administrator. and that Exchange administrator is going to cost them an average salary of somewhere between $42,000 and $93,000 a year. Next, of course, is the mission-critical nature that we keep talking about. 34% of your users access email via mobile device. And this is something that's neat. Your sales associates, or even your associates that are out doing business development and such, when they're connecting with a decision maker, your decision maker is 7% more likely to respond if you reply to them in less than an hour. So if you don't have access to your email all the time, you're missing out on those critical decision makers actually responding to you. Finally, downtime is a huge issue. On average, on-premise solutions experience over 3 working days per year of downtime on email. Now, that's not just I can't communicate with my coworkers or I can't communicate with my customers, which is, of course, terrible, but oftentimes for your clients, it's I can't receive orders or I can't process orders because they receive their orders via email. In contrast, if they implement a hosted Exchange solution, they only experience an average of 52 minutes of downtime per year. That is a drastic difference. Now, of course, they're all going to have objections, especially today because you get the first question of, well, what about all the free email solutions? There's Gmail, there's Yahoo, there's Hotmail, there's Lycos, and my gosh, people still have AOL. I would love to ask right now how many people know somebody with AOL, but since we're all in listen-only mode, I'll just let you know I actually do know somebody that still has an AOL address. It's my grandmother. So the fact, though, is that while they are on the surface, quote-unquote, free, let's face it, they're not really free. And why aren't they free? Because inconsistent and ineffective email tools lead to a loss of $3,300 per employee per year, or $1.3 million lost in productivity per year. Not only that, but let's just face facts. 75% of people form judgments based upon a user's email address. When your sales team gets a new lead in with a Gmail account or a Hotmail account, do they really take it seriously? I can tell you as a marketer, we do things like lead scoring, where you try to rank the probability of a lead closing based on certain factors. And we rank factors according to the email address it comes in from. If it's a corporate email address, we rank it higher than if it's an email address coming from a free account. Next, let's look at the profit potential here. We ran some numbers again on cost versus average retail, and we did this throughout 25 user to 100 user implementations and saw that there's an average of 44% profit margins on this type of solution. So it's definitely a moneymaker option. Now let's talk a little bit about hosted collaboration tools. These include SharePoint and Lync. SharePoint is a tool that allows you to create document sharing or team calendars and such. Lync is a solution for messaging and online meetings that can increase productivity. So first, let's talk about hosted collaboration benefits. Now, here in the survey, you'll see a dark blue icon for people, which is the overall response of people in an organization, and the lighter blue color, which is the response from leaders in the organization. And you'll see across all 4 of these things the increase in productivity and flexibility, etc. So in the first top left, you'll see that leaders said that there was an 89% increase in mobile work productivity. A 90% increase in new product and service delivery models in terms of efficiency, 86% increase for more flexible work environment, of course. Now, yeah, leaders saw this more than standard employees, which is not totally surprising. It's good to be a leader. And finally, of course, communication across boundaries and time zones. It really enables your employees not only to communicate with each other across boundaries, but also communicate with your customers across boundaries. Now, this is something that I just found really interesting, And funny enough, we're using GoToMeeting today, but these stats are pulled from WebEx. Now, according to WebEx, there are about 428,000 meetings per day, which is unbelievable. What's more unbelievable is that people are spending 1.8 billion minutes per month. Now, because I'm kind of a geek, I did the math. 1.8 billion minutes a month is 1.25 million days, which equals 30 million hours. Just to put that into perspective, they did an estimate on what it took to build Wikipedia, and they came out with the fact that Wikipedia was built in an estimated 100 million human hours. Just looking at WebEx, that means in 3 months, the number of meetings occurring on WebEx could build Wikipedia. I found that to be really amazing. Next, of course, is that you'll see there's 31 million attendees per month. That's almost the entire state of California, which comes in at about a population of 38 million today. So the amount of people using hosted messaging and collaboration is just through the roof. So, of course, let's take a look at the profit potential here, right? That's what we want to see. We, again, did a comparison of cost versus average retail and found this time 45% profit margins. So, again, you've got a lot of room here to add some revenue to your business. Okay, so next we're going to go into disaster recovery, which is going to follow very quickly by business continuity because they're really kind of siblings. So we'll start with some, a startling fact. Let's see the fact that U.S. Small Business Administration says 25% of businesses do not reopen after a major disaster. 1 in 4 is never fun. So why is that important? Well, let's take note that more than 50% of North American companies do not have a disaster recovery plan. You'll see here also 30% of European companies don't have a disaster recovery plan. So let's just say you have 8 clients. 4 of those are not going to have any plan for recovery in a disaster. And according to our previous slide, 2 of them are going to go out of business following a major disaster. So that's 2 paying clients you have now that you would lose just because they don't have any type of disaster recovery plan. So implementing disaster recovery is hugely important. On average, businesses experience 14 hours of downtime per year, and of course 41% said that was very damaging or disastrous. And you see per year about $26.5 billion in lost revenue because of disasters and not having a disaster recovery plan. So the typical revenue loss by the enterprise size, you'll see in small enterprises is about $55,000 per year. Per disaster, 91,000 for a mid-sized company, and $1 million or more for your larger customer or your larger companies. So the major benefits of disaster recovery and business continuity services include the fact that, of course, it's going to minimize the risks of delays and downtime. We all know this. When your site goes down, you're going to lose sales, you're going to lose customer, you're going to lose data. So it prevents that data loss. Of course, it also guarantees you the reliability of your standby systems and your policies and procedures in the events of these disasters because you can go through and you can test it, make sure that everything's working in case something does happen. Next are my 2 favorite. Realistically, it's going to minimize the decision-making during a disaster, which, all of us realize that when we're in a time of turmoil or disaster, it's a high-stress environment. And in high-stress environments, we do not make our best decisions. So it's going to lower an unnecessarily stressful work environment. And your leadership team and their leadership team is going to know, hey, things are going to go well because we have this plan in place, and we're just going to go ahead and switch right over. So today we use DoubleTake for these solutions. And DoubleTake is the software that handles disaster recovery and business continuity services. The beautiful things about DoubleTake are what we're going to talk about now, and that starts with the fact that it's a single solution for both physical and virtual data. So you're not limited by the type of implementation you have. It also spreads out the impact of data protection over time rather than setting up backup windows where you're going to take a performance hit because it's doing so much for backup. This brings us to, of course, the fact that it provides really efficient protection. There aren't protection gaps or scheduling requirements. You don't have to have those backup-related server slowdowns. You can protect as little or as much as you want, including an entire Windows server with the OS and all of your installed applications. So you really have nothing to worry about in that regard. And then, of course, it offers a really powerful recovery. So you can have any-to-any recoverability. And what does that mean? That means that you can go from physical machine to physical machine to virtual machine to virtual machine, and of course, virtual machine to physical machine. So it all sounds confusing and fun, but realistically, it means you have a ton of flexibility regardless of your implementation. You can recover to any point in time, and you can recover data from virtual machines without the need to recover the entire VM, which of course saves time in getting back up and operational. So here you're going to see a diagram of the typical disaster recovery deployment. So your client may have Office A and Office B as well as a local data center, and they can push all of those to the cloud where they have a hosted repository. On that hosted repository, in case they need to recover, they can recover, again, to any type of environment, whether it's physical machines or virtual machines. In this, your expected recovery is going to be about 24 hours, but we can take it a step further and implement a business continuity solution, which is why I said they're kind of like siblings. So let's talk a little bit about business continuity. Here we have a diagram of what your typical business continuity deployment looks like. This is different because for each source physical or virtual server, you have a target cloud server with the same specifications. This allows you to get up and operational again in under an hour because you have that same environment running, just waiting for you to turn it on in the event of failure. So really, this is your ultimate solution. Next, of course, we took a look at the profit potential here, and we found that there's about 36% in profit margins for DR and business continuity solutions. But don't forget, this also provides such a value add to your clients and what they're running. Everybody wants to be safer. So in summary, today we introduced you a bit more to AwesomeCloud and how our partners succeed. But most importantly, we talked about the cloud solutions that are going to help grow your business. These include desktop as a service, hosted messaging and collaboration, disaster recovery, and business continuity. So thank you very much for your time. We've really appreciated having you. We're going to look for your feedback in regards to this webinar, so we'll be sending out some surveys and so on. And at this point, we'll open it up for questions, and thank you. And we'll stop the recording, so have a nice day.